What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, and I'm very excited for this one because we've been waiting for a while. But she is an incredible person, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, here to uncover your power, build grit, reframe pain, and spark joy. Top 1% podcast globally, True Grit and Grace, best-selling author, been on TED and Forbes. Guys, help us welcome the one and only Amberly Lago. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you. And we have been like trying to get this going for a while.
For a little bit, right?
Hasn't we?
But
yeah.
we
so
made
I've really
it happen.
been looking forward to it.
No, same here. We made it happen, and that's at the end of the day, that's what counts.
Yeah. Thank y'all so much. I was just saying how much I enjoy listening to your episodes. So to get to be here and talk with you and share with your amazing audience is really, I'm honored. So thanks.
I appreciate it. We're honored to have you on here as well. So, and thank you for listening. You know, we always appreciate when our guests tell us that, hey, we've listened or we're listening to your episode. That just fills us up. So which one's your favorite one so far? I got to ask.
Well, I like learning things that I don't know enough about. And I actually enjoyed, and we were talking about this a little bit, you sharing about investments and what to do with your money. I think that's something that we all could learn. I know for my family, when we lost everything, gosh, back in 2010, I mean, we lost everything. I had lost my career, my savings. We had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses.
Wow.
We had to learn a lot about finances. And so just learning more about stocks and stuff from you guys, that's been interesting and something I want to learn about. But I love all you share. And especially I love what you post on Instagram as
Thank
well.
you.
That's what really got my attention was your Instagram posts.
I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot, honestly. And again, goes back over here for the amazing things that you're doing. It's really incredible to see what you're posting about, what you're talking about, you know, how you're speaking, what you're talking about. It's really influential. So, you know, the same goes over here, and we just appreciate you coming on. And I want to dive in a little bit about, you know, the fact that you said, which I think it's important, you know, understanding like what you need to invest in and how to be able to just be educated around that. You know, what do you feel with the era that we live in now? Like, what do you feel is the best way for the youth to start educating themselves based on what you've seen? And also, I know you mentioned your daughter. You guys are helping her, you know, understand this a little bit. And I know you said she's even made some of her own investments.
Yeah, well, my oldest daughter is in Yale. It's her birthday today. My oldest daughter just turned
birthday.
26. Yeah, she's 26.
Scorpio like me.
Oh, well, happy birthday to you.
I'm November 9th.
Scorpio.
November 9th next week.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love Scorpios. Although it can be like this sometimes.
You'll live his dad. His dad's birthday was on the 2nd. So he's another huge passionate guy.
Oh yeah.
Definitely a lot of passion. And hard work too. I mean, both my daughters are very hard workers. My oldest daughter's 26 and I called her this morning to wish her a happy birthday. And she's in Connecticut. She's going to Yale studying medicine. So
Congrats.
Just the fact that I have a daughter in Yale, it's like, yeah, I'll be working for the rest of my life, but maybe she'll start to help with that. But no, she's amazing. And she's actually learned, she's got students loan. We do help her a little bit, but she's learned, she's had a job since she was young. My youngest daughter started her own business. She's 13. She started her own business, a year ago.
Wow.
And I will never forget the first day she started it on Instagram and through a little site. She wanted to create her own website, but didn't really know how to yet. And I'm like, well, here are some things you can do to try to figure it out. And she started figuring out, and we had to make 2 trips to the post office with all the shipments that she, sent out. And so she has a savings, and I teach her about, she doesn't spend what she doesn't already have saved. And so she's learning the value of a dollar, but we also have her looking at the stock market. and how that started actually was she's a huge Tesla fan. I mean, she is in love with Elon
Does she have
Musk.
one already?
Well, she's got stock in Tesla, and I've always been a truck person. I had a big F-250. I've always been a truck girl, and she actually convinced me to buy a Tesla. So I have this nerve disease, which makes it a little hard for me to drive long distances with my foot hitting the pedal back and forth. And so she kept saying, Mom, I have the solution for you. You should get a Tesla. And I thought, she just loves Tesla. She just wants me to get a Tesla. And I was like, no, I don't really like cars. I'm not into Tesla. No. And she kept on and she wrote, she would send me videos of why it was the best car. She would do comparisons to other cars. Then she wrote me up like, I don't know, a 2 or 3 page just
Damn, she made sure to give you the research.
Yeah. So when she did the research and she took the time to write a paper up on it for me, I said, okay, why don't we go take it for a test drive? And my husband was like, you can't afford that. And I was like, oh, we are definitely going to take it for a test drive. And we drove it, and it was the solution to my problem. I started crying in the middle of the test drive when the guy was like, okay, go ahead and put it on self-drive mode. And I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, my leg was really hurting that day. And I just started crying. And he looked at me like I was crazy. Said, I've never had anybody cry during a test drive. And I was like, this is the solution. I'm going to be able to drive further and drive wherever I want. And so I ended up buying it that day. And it just goes to show you, that what started as her love of cars I ended up getting a Tesla. Then we ended up getting stock in Tesla. And now she checks the stock market and she's like, oh my gosh, Mom, I've gotten so much money today. It went up, and she's learning about it. She probably knows more about it than I do. And so we're teaching her the value of money because, look, she goes to a really nice school. She's an equestrian, and she's around people that have a lot more money than us probably. And I want her to know that money just doesn't grow on trees. You got to create a money machine and have your money work for you. And you have to be smarter with your money so it lasts. And so we're doing the best we can as parents to teach her that. And where it's a little hard for me is, I want to give my kids things I never had, but I didn't have much growing up, and I've really worked hard to get to where I am. And so I'm like, oh, I want to give my kids all that I didn't have. But there's this kind of, I don't know if there's ever a balancing act really, but a fine line between giving them too much and then also having them work for it so they learn the value of it and they respect it and they learn how to work.
Ooh, and what company or what business did your daughter open? Just out of curiosity.
So her being an equestrian, she loves everything horses. So she molds and sculpts these horses, or she buys horses that are these molded Breyer horses, and she fixes them up, or she reshapes and remolds them, and she sells them for more money.
Super
Oh,
cool.
wow. That's such a niche that you couldn't even think
I was
about.
going to say, wow. So there's a market out there for that.
Oh my
Big
gosh,
time.
there are some horse crazy girls out there, and she doesn't even and it goes to show you that it doesn't matter really how big of a following that you have on social media. What matters is that you have a true following and engaged followers, and you are speaking to your customer, because she gets hundreds of views in her stories on Instagram and stuff, and she doesn't have like some huge following. She's not verified yet. Who knows? Maybe she will be soon.
We got to get her there.
I'm so proud of her. Yeah, I'm proud of her. She talks to people through DMs. She's like really loves what she does, and it comes across. And so that's why people want to buy from her. and she goes above and beyond. I've taught her to make her services extra special. Like when she sends a horse, don't just wrap it up and send it in a box. Put a pretty name tag on it, put a handwritten note in there, put some extra little miniature horses in there. And so she's done that, and it's really done well. Awesome. She bought something the other day, and her friends were in the car with us, and her friend said, "Did you just buy that with your own money?" And she said, "Yeah, I've got my own money."
Right.
And so that made,
right.
Yeah.
I love it. That's really cool. So have you always been like that since growing up? Have you always been taught yourself and learned how to do these things? Or did you have like your parents or mentors in place that as you grew up, you learned how to do all this stuff, things that you're teaching your kids? Because I think it's amazing to hear the way that you're handling your children, because, you know, it's like you were saying, it's like how much to give them, if it's too much, too little, you know, how to balance that out, right? And in reality, I don't believe there's such thing as like equal balance. I think, yeah, you can create inner balance for yourself, but there's always going to be a little bit more on one side than the other. So has that always been something when you were growing up that you learned on your own or you learned from others? How was that for you?
Well, growing up, like I said, there were 7 of us kids, and we didn't have much money. And so if we wanted something, we had to work for it. We had to buy it. So I started working. Well, I started this is kind of scary to even say. I started babysitting when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And it was a full-time job for me. By the time I was 13, I was babysitting, and I was understudying my dance instructor at the dance studio. And she was my greatest mentor. She took me under her wing, and she put me in a teacher training program. So at age 13, I was in a teacher training program. And by the time I was 15, I was working a couple of jobs. I was working at a place in the mall and selling and baking cookies. And then I was teaching dance, and I bought my own car because if I didn't, I wouldn't have wheels to get me places. And I was sick of riding the bus. And so I worked hard, and I had big dreams, and I was in a small town, and I knew the only way I was going to get out of that small town is if I worked hard myself. I didn't have, you know, parents that were going to be able to hand me some money or say, "Hey, let's go take you places and get you set up an apartment." As much as they loved me and they're great parents, I didn't come from a lot of money. And so by the time I was 18, I had saved up $1,200, which, you know, I'm almost 50. And that was a lot of money for a small town girl. Yeah, I'm getting up there. I'm like, God, I'm almost 50. And, you know, I knew I was going to make something of I wanted more out of life. I always felt like, I want more than what this little town can offer right now. And so I packed up my bags, my $1,200, came to LA, and I knew that I needed to find a job right away. And so within the first 2 weeks, I got 4 jobs. I got 2 jobs working at 2 different dance studios, and I had 2 waitressing jobs because I had to pay rent. And I remember one of the first places that I walked in was this little diner, and they had a help wanted sign in the window. And I walked in with the sign. I said, "I'm here for the job." And they said, "Well, no, I'm sorry. We need a dishwasher." I said, "I can do that. I'm happy to do that. I need a job." And they wouldn't give me the job. They said, "No, you're overqualified. I'm sure. Go look." And I was just so hungry to make money. And I knew, I was like, I don't want to go back to my hometown. I want to go after my dreams. And so I found another job, which was great because it ended up being waiting tables and teaching dance. And so I think that, you know, your hard work puts you where your blessings can find you. A month later, I was dancing in a music video with MC Hammer. And then a lot of people that in my town were like, "Oh, you'll never make it in Hollywood." I was like, "Oh yeah, but I'm dancing with MC Hammer now." And that was really the beginning of my dance journey. Yeah, it's been,
that's so
and
cool.
so for, you know, I think when we have our big dreams, we should really focus on that passion and our purpose and let that drive us. And for me, that far outweighed the fear I had of failing or not having enough money to pay rent or whatever it was. I think there's always a way we can find a way.
I love that you said that, and I really love and just thinking here, I'm just like, it's like if you want it, there's no excuses. Like
None.
if you want it that bad, there's no excuses, and I really believe that. Like somebody like yourself, getting 4 jobs, going through what you went through, learning all this to get the opportunities, you made your opportunities. They weren't just given to you, right? But you get opportunities because you worked for what you did during that time period, and you had to go through that grind, that grit, that process to now get to where you're at today. And I think it's amazing because, I think more people nowadays need to see that and hear that, where it's like, yes, it's going to take times where you're going to have to work multiple jobs. You're going to have to do certain things you might not like. But guess what? If you stick to it, you're going to get to the other side of your goals. And I truly feel like we need more of that push. We need more of that drive, that mentality of like, hey, go out there and start doing things. Go out there and start testing the waters. Go out there and start putting in that hard work, because life is not going to give you the things on your lap, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with my daughter. One of my favorite parts of the day is most days I really try my best to be able to drive my daughter to school. Some days my husband has to take her, but I love that time in the car with her when we can really have good conversation uninterrupted. And she was telling me, I could tell she was a little bit like, why do you make me go to school all the time? She's like, I'm tired. And, she was really tired and all week she's been a little tired from Halloween. I made her get up and go to school, even though she was up a little bit later Halloween night. And she goes, Mom, my best friends, their mom, if they're tired, she lets them stay home from school or sleep in, and she takes them later to school. And I said, well, I'm not their mom. I'm your mom. And you know what? You're learning life lessons here that when it's hard, you still get up and you show up. And I think that's, and I'm not trying to sound bad. I'm not trying to sound bad about the other mom. Not that to each their own, how we parent. Whatever's right for you is right for you. For me, I know that I learned through my dancing and being an athlete that, gosh, it was hard sometimes. Gosh, my toes were bleeding in my point shoes. Gosh, I was throwing up on the track, conditioning myself for the 2-mile race. But my coach was like, you know what, off the track to throw up and then keep running. And, my post on Instagram today was about yesterday. I was in so much pain. I was sick, but I did what I had to do to feel better and feel less nauseated. It was just from the pain that I deal with every day. But I was like, okay, what can I still do? How can I still show up? How can I still show up my best? And I think that it starts at a young age when we teach our kids to keep showing up and show up your best and be grateful that you get to go to a really nice school or that
100%.
You get this job. It might not be the job that you want right now, but you can certainly make the best of it. That's how, I'll tell you a little story real quick. One of my first jobs was, I was saying, at the mall, and it was at this place called the Cookie Jar. While a lot of my friends, they had more money, they didn't have to have a job. I had a job. And so on the weekends, the mall closed at 9. So I knew my friends were all hanging out. My curfew was at 10:30. So I knew I had to clean that shop up and get out of there as quick as I could. So I would still have maybe an hour and a half to hang out with my friends. But at that job, I made it the best I could. I asked the owner if I could wear roller skates and I could skate around because I could get around faster because I knew it'd be more fun for me. It'd be more entertaining for the people who bought cookies. And then I also was like, why do we just throw away all these day-old cookies? I said, can I take these for my friends? So I found a way that my friends would be waiting for me after the mall because they wanted all those day old cookies and donuts and everything. So it's like, by thinking outside the box, how can you make a job more fun for you, more pleasant for the customer? and rewarding at the end. It's, there's always a way. Again, find a way to make it work.
That's right.
Oh, 100%. And being innovative and find those creative, those creative outlets to shine and share your knowledge with other people and get them on board, like getting the cookies and the rollerblade. Those are things that are innovative. Now, when you do make it and you are successful, and you have hit, I guess, all the accolades and everything that you wanted, how do you, I guess, break that plateau? Because that sometimes happens to a lot of people, that you get to that echelon, you already hit it, you're there. How do you break out that and keep that drive? Like for yourself, how do you keep driving yourself to go to that next level?
Well, first of all, I don't feel like I'm ever there.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like transformation is always a journey. It's not really a destination. I feel like success is always a journey. It's not, for me, a final destination. I love learning. I love growing in every way, whether it's, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially, emotionally, in every way. And I think it's really important to celebrate the small victories along the way, because sometimes we forget, like, we work so hard for this thing and then we get it, and then what? I think it's really important to find joy along the journey. And if we don't, what's the point of it all anyway? And so I think that as long as we're finding joy in the things that we do, then we're going to feel fulfilled and we're going to want to keep moving forward. But it's when we feel like we're caught up on a hamster wheel of life and we're just working for that accolade or that Forbes feature or that verified, badge or whatever it is, then when we get it, it's like, we maybe don't feel as fulfilled. But if we're remembering to celebrate along the way, make connections, meaningful connections along the way, and remember why we're doing what we do in the first place, I think that's really important. And I think that's where a lot of people start to get burnt out, as they forget why they're doing what they're doing and they get caught up on this hamster wheel. But it's important to check in with yourself and ask yourself, what are your values? What are your priorities? And then get clear on your goals and remember why you started.
Amen to that. I love that. And it's funny because on one of our other podcasts, I mentioned for myself, back in 2016 when I hired one of my first coaches, that was one of the things that I learned was celebrating my wins. It doesn't mean, get stuck on celebration mode for over a week or a month, but at least take a day or two for yourself or with your friends and family, your loved ones, and celebrate those wins that you achieved for yourself, because that's when it feels most fulfilling. And at the end of the day, when you can celebrate those with others that you love, that's what makes happiness and success grow. That's what makes it want to continue, because you look forward for that, and I look forward to celebrating my next wins, and for me, what I've done is quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
And quarterly, I look at the stuff that I'm doing. I'm like, okay, quarterly, look, this is what I've done for my wins this quarter. This is what I've done as wins this quarter. And then, that's 4 times out of the year that I look at that and I can actually see what I've been able to create into fruition. Because I used to be that guy that I would sit back and just be, all right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Boop, toe to the side. What's that? And I wouldn't even realize, man, I did all this. Like, I really did all this. I can't believe it. And it wasn't until that coach put a binder in front of me and we worked together for a year, and she's like, hey, Anthony, I want you to open up that binder. And when I looked at it, she's like, that's all your wins that you've done for the whole year. She's like, I guarantee you,
wow.
She's like, you probably can only pick like 5 that you can probably remember. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, whoa. And I sat there, I was like, I can't believe I did all this. I was like, whoa, like, really, me? And she's like, yeah, you did that. Like, you did that. And for me, after that, I was just like, yeah, it's important. It felt good. Like, it felt good. It felt rewarding, because it is easy to get distracted. It's easy to get distracted with the constant pursuit of what's the next thing, which I'm not saying is not bad, but it also is bad if you're not paying attention and making yourself loved for the things you have accomplished, because we only live once in this world. And if you can't enjoy those moments through your process, then what is the point of living as well? Because most of the times we're going to spend most of our time in the process anyways. So I love that you brought that up, because for me, that was a huge shift in my life after realizing that. It's definitely
I think it's important. Yeah. And, I have to share something funny with y'all. So I just was at the barn with my daughter, and one of the moms was like, "Oh, congratulations. I saw you just got featured on Forbes." And I said, "Oh, thank you." I was like, "Yeah, that's a real dream come true." I said, "But you want to see the real win?" And I had just interviewed someone on my podcast, and after they had grit tattooed, so my podcast is called True Grit and Grace. They had grit tattooed on their knuckles. And after he read my book and started listening to my podcast, he had grace tattooed on his other knuckles. So I had a video of him like with his knuckles saying grit and grace. And I said, "This is the real win. Look, come on." And then I looked at my husband and I said, "Honey, when are you getting grit and grace tatted on your body?"
Uh-oh, is he going to do it or what?
No, he's not going to do it.
Do you want him to or you don't? I'm just playing.
No, I don't care. No, I don't care. But it was just like, it made my day. I was like,
awesome.
Who would have thought? That was like a little surprise. I had no idea that he had that tattooed. And it wasn't until almost the whole interview was over. He was like, "I have to show you something. Look." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, now I want to get a tattoo.
That's it. Are you going to do it?
I might. I don't know about the knuckles. That's really committed. But I might.
Okay.
I don't have any tattoos, so I might just do it.
I'm sure we'll see a post of it on social media.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
So Grit and Grace, what made you start the podcast? What was it that made you say, "You know what, I want to start this podcast and I want to start, bringing on a certain group of people in here as guests and start sharing whatever it is that you're sharing?" And I would love to learn more about that.
Well, honestly, I've had the podcast for a couple of years now. And at the time, I was doing a lot of traveling. I was speaking on a lot of different stages. Thankfully, I'm back to doing that now that things are starting to open up again. But I was doing a lot of conferences with amazing friends and other speakers that I was just meeting for the first time who had incredible stories of, most of the time, these highly successful thought leaders, speakers, best-selling authors, they had overcome a lot of hurdles. And I thought I would love a way to share their message with my audience. And so I was really inspired to share stories of resilience, of stories of, struggles to success, because so often on social media, it looks, everybody's posting their highlight reels and it looks like people are an overnight success or things come in very easy. And you would never know that, someone struggled with addiction, or they, were broke and climbed their way out of financial debt, or or were homeless, or whatever or in jail. So many of the people that I've had on the show, their stories of resilience are amazing. So that was why I wanted to really share it. So I've got stories from, people like Mae Musk, Trent Shelton, John Acuff, John Azaroff, David Meltzer, that have just, there's so many amazing people. And it's been such a beautiful way of building relationships too. And so I've been doing more solo casts now. My producer was like, "Amberly, your solo casts get more downloads. You need to do more of those." And I was like, "They do? Oh, okay. I'll do more of those." And so I really listen to what my audience tells me, what they ask the most, and I make those into solo cast and answer questions and do what I can to bring value.
Ooh. And you're speaking about going over obstacles and coming on the other side. Earlier in this interview, you were talking about 2010. That was one of your lowest times. How did you overcome those obstacles for our audience who don't really know you too well, and to where you are today?
Well, I had, a successful training business. I was nationally recognized as a coach. I had several trainers that worked for me. I was doing infomercials. I was working with Body by Jake. I was on the, label of vitamins, and in Shape magazine and Health magazine. And it was just really, things were great. And everything changed when I was hit by an SUV while I was coming home from work one day on my motorcycle. And so I was, rushed to the hospital. And the last thing I remember was screaming across the hospital room to my husband. I thought maybe I was dying. My femoral artery was severed. They had me in what they bagged me, which basically means, we think she's a goner. Wow. And I yelled across the hospital room, honey, I need you to get over here and be strong for me, because my husband's 6'4". He's a lieutenant commander with the highway patrol, big, tough guy. And I'd never seen him cry before. And I thought, well, this might be it. I need to know he's going to be able to pull it together for our daughters. And I woke up from a coma. They told me I had a 1% chance of saving my leg from amputation. And I held on to that 1%. And it took 34 surgeries, months in the hospital. And that was really the beginning of not just saving my life, my leg, but I had to completely reinvent myself, because now I'm completely scarred and deformed. My leg is deformed. My ankle's fused. It's made of metal. And I live with constant chronic pain. And I kept trying to get back to, where I was and train clients. And sometimes I think that when something we feel maybe broken or something has happened and we keep trying to get back, and there might be a lot of people listening right now that are thinking to themselves, well, when things get back to normal, and I don't think that resilience is getting back. I think it's bouncing forward and reinventing yourself and doing things different or better. And when we can think with an open mind of, what if I'm meant for something different, or what if things could be better and just I could work with people a little differently, our whole world can change. So it's really been a really tough process of, climbing out of darkness. I was suicidal at one point, just because I lived with the nerve disease dubbed the suicide disease. It really is pretty darn bad. It's ranked highest on the pain scale. There's no known cure. And so when I had survived this horrible accident and all these surgeries to learn that it's never going to get better, that I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I thought, wait a minute. You mean I'm always going to be in pain? Like nothing was working for the pain. And it was, I think, at my darkest moment that I realized, wow, I can either go down the road of despair, or I can really choose to set an example of resilience and be the victor of my life for my children. And so I hung on like I had that 1% chance of saving my leg. I hung on to that little glimmer of hope that I had. And so sometimes I think that's all we need, is just a little glimmer of hope to keep moving forward. And sometimes that's only seconds at a time, moments at a time, one day at a time. But as long as we hang on to hope and keep faith and surround ourselves with people who believe in us, then I think that anything is possible.
I gotta just say that was extremely powerful.
Wow, yes.
Very, very powerful. And I think that for our audience listening, I think it's another check in their lives where whatever trauma, bad experience that they've had in their life, going back to what you said of, it's not necessarily about going back to normal. And I guess we can all relate with this even with COVID, but it's about how we're going to push forward and reinvent. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that people are always most scared of, because they're like, I want what I used to know, what was normal, what was the way of living before. But when something happens, things change. And you know what? We got to bounce forward and look at the good and see how can we make this better and reinvent ourselves. And obviously, I'm sitting over here and never experienced something like this. So I'm sure for yourself, you must have really gone through different moments in your life where you've had to constantly reinvent yourself through this process. And I got to give it to you because, yeah, I'm sure it's not easy. And I wanted to ask you, is this what catapulted you to get into speaking? Is this what catapulted you to get into this world that you're in now? Is this what reinvented you to do what you're doing today?
Yeah, I love people. I love working with people. I think, when sometimes people have a hard time, they're like, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my calling is. If you think back to a time when you were around 8 years old or 9 years old and what brought you joy, that's probably connected to your purpose or your calling. And I know for me, when I was that age, what brought me joy was when I would see people's face light up when I would make them happy. And I did that by dancing. And every Friday night I would be at the Dairy Queen on the tabletop with jukebox playing and dance on the tabletops, and people would smile and clap and laugh and have fun. And it was a way of connecting everyone. And now through, fitness, I got to see people light up with joy when they started getting the results and they felt better because they were moving their bodies. With life coaching, I got to see the transformation, mentally, sometimes spiritually, sometimes physically in people. And I saw that light come on. And then I thought, well, I love working with people one-on-one, but then I started getting asked to speak at different networking events at hospitals, at clinics. And so I started speaking, and then I could see a whole, room of people that lit up. And like, it was crazy. When I did my TED Talk, I had never experienced anything like it. That was the biggest stage I'd ever spoken on. It was the first time I had ever done like a curated talk that had to be 14 minutes long exactly in front of almost 3,000 people. And to feel the energy of the audience, it's a feeling like you feel connected with that room, and you can feel their joy and you can feel their laughter and their energy. And there's nothing that brings me joy more than being able to spread joy to other people. And so that's what got me into speaking, and my favorite thing to do. And the favorite thing about, writing my book was not that it's a bestseller, not that, I've been on the Today Show and the doctors and Hallmark. That's all really cool. Don't get me wrong. That was really awesome. The best part of it is the connections I've made along the way, because I have made the most meaningful connections because I share so vulnerably about sexual abuse, about divorce, about overcoming trauma, about, climbing my way out of $2.9 million worth of medical expenses in the book. And so people, when we can relate to one another, when we know we're not alone in that situation, then we have the opportunity to build our community, to build our tribe, to build our friendships.
100% relatability.
So in a nutshell, that's how I got into speaking.
I appreciate that. And I'll tell you, number one thing is everything you've shared today, your stories, from when you were young and how you hustled and what you were doing to the tribulations. I felt like I was in the story.
Oh yeah.
I felt like I could see it clearly. So I want to say, like, it's just amazing how the impact that you even have on us, and I'm sure your audience, on when you share your stories, you feel like you're there. You feel like you're there. Like, I felt like I was in your stories, watching it, playing it out. Like, I even saw the colors, the this, the that. Like, I was just picturing in my head. I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm there. And I could tell that that's part of why you're such a great, speaker in doing what you're doing, because I'm sure you're moving tons and tons of people because they feel like they're in your story. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank
you so much. Let me tell you, it's always scary doing something that you've never done before. And, it was only 5 years ago. I didn't even own a laptop or a computer. Technology is still new. I mean, I've figured a lot out, and I'm like always willing to learn, but I didn't even own a laptop. And so when I decided to write my book and start speaking, that was all new. And so sometimes I still feel so new at so many things. But when we do those scary things, when we jump out of our comfort zone, and that's where the magic happens. And I'm sure we've all heard that saying before, but it's so true. And the more we do those things that feel uncomfortable or a little bit scary, and we get butterflies, and then we put we start to build our confidence to do bigger things. So I always tell my clients, do something that scares you every day. that's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we build our confidence. And so, and I had somebody ask me, they're like, do you get nervous before you speak? And I'm like, absolutely, every single time before I speak, whether it's virtually or in person, I'm doing push-ups and I'm praying. I'm like, I'm push-upping, I'm praying, I'm doing more push-ups, and that seems to help get me grounded.
I always say, if you're not scared or nervous, it means that you're not that passionate about it.
Yeah, or you're not doing something big enough.
Yep. No, exactly. And something you said too was, do something scary every day. It's funny because I say that all the time with my clients. I say, I say, do something uncomfortable instead of scary. I usually say, do something uncomfortable every day. It doesn't matter how big, small, or large it is, but do something uncomfortable every day that's going to lead you to succeed. That's what I always say. So I love that because I think the same exact way. I feel like you have to do something uncomfortable, challenge yourself, learn something new, or do something you've never done before, so you can experience a new level of success. Because without trying something, you don't know. Like and I'll keep it as simple as, it's the same thing when you have your little one and you're trying to get them to eat something. I'm like, hey, if you never try it, you don't know if you like it. And you might be missing out on a whole lot of tasteful food, and that's how I've gotten my little one to eat new foods and try things. And I'm just bringing it as little as that because it's so easy to explain. But when you think of other bigger things or other things in your life, when you hold yourself back from trying things that are uncomfortable just because they're uncomfortable, you don't know what that really could be for you. And you might be missing out on a whole lot of enjoyment and success and growth in your life.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So what are the big projects do you have coming up right now? I'm sure you must have a bunch of things going on. So what's something that I guess coming up in 2022 you're working on, or that you can maybe even speak with us about?
Oh, yeah. I would say the thing that I'm most excited about is, like I said, I love people. I love connecting. I love seeing people reach their goals and their dreams. I love seeing that light come on in them. And so I have a mastermind called Your Unstoppable Life. And we just wrapped one up, and we had our first in-person event. It's a 3-month-long program where you learn to really build your influence so you can make a bigger impact and bigger income, and through whether it's podcasting, book writing, blogging, or just sharing your story. And it's learning how to really get into your story and share it in a way that it's going to make an impact and do it confidently. So we just wrapped up. We had a meeting in Malibu, and it was beautiful. And so we're going to meet next year. It's starting in March, not till March. So there's some time. And I just love, I made a lot of mistakes. I did not know what I was doing. I'd never written a book before. And now if I can share, tips and what to do and how to get to point A to point B faster, then I'm all about that. I think that, we were talking about before we even started recording, like, isn't it great when you can get with people who have done, they know, they have experience with what you want to do, and learn from them. So that's basically what the mastermind is. And I have experts in their fields, whether it's top podcasters, authors, coaches, come in and shine, and on the group. And so it's so much fun. And so that's probably the most exciting thing. And I've been in LA for 31 years, and we're getting ready to move to Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big deal too. But it's, I've been so life has been eventful. I just got back in town. I've been doing event after event, traveling. And so to be honest, I haven't even thought about it. But like we were saying before, celebrate the small victories. Right. I've been, I guess, having fun celebrating some great speaking events and things that have come my way. So I know I'll get excited about it. I have my husband keep saying, you better block off that time. You are not going to have an office. You are not going to be able to do a speaking event while you're moving to Dallas. So this should be interesting. I'll just have to get the plates on my car taken off. I don't think there's not as many Teslas in Texas, and they're not too keen on California's moving out there right now. But I mean, look, I'm originally from there, so hopefully they'll have me back.
So you're originally from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So going back to the hometown, or you're going, or is your hometown part of, close to Dallas or no?
Yeah, it's close to Dallas, and so we won't be far from my hometown. Okay. And nice. It's the best school district. So that's why we picked that area, is because it's a really good school district and, close enough to DFW. And now, all of my work is virtual and in person, and it's definitely not really in LA anymore.
Can't beat that. Yep, that's right. So if you ever do a speaking engagement, if you ever go do a workshop or something in Miami, you got to let us know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I go to Miami all the time. I love Miami. My husband's whole family is in Miami.
Really?
He's Cuban. Yeah.
Hey.
Why didn't you tell us this before? We're Cuban too.
You are kidding me.
We're both Cuban.
We're both Cuban.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. Born in Miami, but we're Cuban descent, come from Cuban families.
Okay. Well, my husband, his whole family came from Cuba, and they're in Miami. And I met him out here in California, but I'm the only gringa in the whole family.
That's not a bad thing, though.
I'm sure they love you.
No. Yeah. Oh, I love them. And we were thinking if we were going to move to Dallas or Miami. And because my daughter being an equestrian and everything, we decided Dallas. So, gotcha. But we'll definitely be visiting in Miami. You're closer. And I want to see y'all in person.
You will definitely have to see us in person. And we would love to have you here in person to record.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No wonder I love y'all so much. You're Cuban.
You see, there was something there that was missing. I was like, something was there. That was the connection. It was a Cuban connection.
That's it. It is. Yeah.
The Cuban flavor.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. The Cuban flavor. That's so funny. So wait, so your husband met you in California. What brought him to California first?
He was in the Navy, and then he joined the California Highway Patrol. So he was a chippy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he used to pull me over.
Oh, okay. So that's how it happened. That's a
He's
Cuban
retired
tactic.
now,
That's
so
a
I can
Cuban
say
tactic.
Listen, Cuban and a cop. He's a Leo. He is got a lot of personality, but that's why I love him. That's awesome. He always keeps me entertained. It's always entertaining. Now
I'm even interested to meet your husband. I'm like, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys will have to meet. He is a character. He's so much fun.
What's your husband's name?
He's the best dad. John.
John what?
Well, everybody calls him Johnny. Johnny Lago.
Okay, super cool. I'm Mendez. He's Garita, so that's our last names.
Yeah, he's Lago, and he says Lago, but all of his family says Lago. So I say Lago. Yeah, and when I already had my business established when we were getting married, and I said, maybe, and my name was Brown, Amberly Brown. And I said, maybe you could just change your name to Johnny Brown. He goes, I am not changing my name.
Oh my God, I love it. Oh man, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So you changed
I knew he wouldn't go for it.
You end up changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh man, that's so cool to know. Well, now for sure, when you guys are back down here, we're gonna reconnect and have a good time here in live, because I know the energy is always completely different when it's in person.
Yes, we will definitely do that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Well, Amberly, I would just want to say personally, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, which I truly felt that I was in there and part of. And I just want to say, thank you for all the information, your experiences that you shared with the audience. I'm sure there are going to be a ton that can relate and just feel connected to. And before we wrap things up, I'm sure Bryan's going to want to say something as well. But I want to give the floor to you to be able to just allow people to where allow people to find you, and where can they connect with you, and where can they just get that awesome information around your mastermind as well, if there's anybody out there who feels that they need it?
Oh, thank you
Of
so
course.
much. Yeah, you know what? Please text me at 818-214-7378. Just text me the word mastermind and I can send you the information on it. And if you want a free downloadable playbook also, you can text the word grit. Just text GRIT to 818-214-7378. And it will share the how to tap into your superpower, resilience, and thrive. But you can find me on Instagram at Amberly Lago Motivation. My podcast is True Grit and Grace, and my book is True Grit and Grace. And yeah, reach out and say hello. I'm most active on Instagram, but I'm all over all social media at Amberly Lago. So reach out. And
Guys,
thank y'all so
love.
much thank you for having me on. It was so much fun talking with y'all, and we'll definitely sweat it out, work out.
Oh, we'll definitely.
Yeah.
That's my background. So that's your background too. So we definitely got to get a workout in, 100%.
Let's do it.
So last question for you. I always like to end it with this: what's the biggest piece of advice you can leave off to all our listeners today in one single sentence?
I would say, listen to your gut and follow your heart, and don't stop believing in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, find somebody that will just give you a little bit of belief until you can start believing in yourself. Even if it's 1%, build on that and keep moving forward any way you can. Just find a way.
Ooh, and I have one question. What's your number one New Year's resolution coming up?
You know, I don't really make resolutions. I do an assessment of what my values are and what my priorities are and my intentions are. And what I do is I look back at the year, everything that I did that was a complete waste of time, what moved the needle on my business, and what brought me joy. And so I start to move forward in the year, and I eliminate stuff that was a waste of my time. I add more of the things that brought me joy, and I definitely add the things that move the needle on the business. So
Powerful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you heard it yourselves from Amberly Lago. Such an amazing person, incredible individual, incredible story. Incredible work that you're doing, incredible parent as well, the way you're bringing up your children. I think it's just very, very inspiring, and I'm learning myself from you as a parent myself. I have a little girl that's going to be 3 in January, so I'm just very, very honored to have had you on here, so I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Well, I want to meet your little girl too. So
you definitely will.
Yeah, we should be out in Miami this summer. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me connect with you and your audience. And I love what you're doing. So thank you. And again, we'll have a workout when I get there, Miami.
That's right.
Let's do it.
So you guys heard it. If you got value out of this podcast, if you got some big takeaway from this and you can start applying it to your life, I would really appreciate it if you guys, please, first of all, follow Amberly, like her stuff, engage with her, message her. She gave you her number, DM her. And if you got value out of this, give us a like, a rating, a review, subscribe, share with others, because the more love you show us, the more love we can show back. Till next time on the Sweat It Out podcast.